welcome back to the long-awaited, the long-anticipated second episode in my series of, how I got into this band, or whatever it's called. This is where I talk about, kind of in a long-form video, how I got into a particular artist that means a lot to me. These episodes kind of stemmed from my, albums that shaped me series. And this is a way that I can talk about albums that maybe didn't have the same impact, but they were still part of my life nonetheless, as I talk about, the majority of the discography of a particular artist. So my first episode was of the Beatles, and I can put the description of that video or the link to that video below. And this is going to be an episode you all are probably expecting it. They're my favorite American band. That is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Now, I first heard Tom Petty, just like a lot of people my age would have, hearing songs like Free Fallin' on the radio. And really, for me, that's about all I remember. Being a kid, I know, now looking back on it, I'm sure I listened to songs like I Won't Back Down or Running Down a Dream, American Girl. I'm sure those were all playing, but in my head, I didn't connect necessarily to those songs. Or I didn't pay attention. I didn't connect that they were all Tom Petty, because you hear a song like Free Fallin', which is like this breezy kind of acoustic, 90s or late 80s, song with the Jeff Lynne production. But then you hear something, jangly like American Girl. As a little kid who doesn't know anything about music, you don't put them together. So I knew Free Fallin'. That was an early song that I learned how to play on guitar. The bloom, 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 bloom. Everybody that plays acoustic guitar has strummed those, notes and tried to, see if anybody notices, i.e. the ladies, which, newsflash, they did not. They did not care for Free Falling. So, anyway, I got into Petty first. I received this CD from my dad. This is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers' greatest hits. My dad and my mom are both big Tom Petty fans. There's a joke in our family that my mom looks like she could have been Tom Petty's sister. When she was a high schooler, she had long, straight blonde hair, very wide smile, very much like Tom Petty. Very, very funny stuff. And so we always call her, Tom Petty. So my dad got me this. He had also burned me a CD off of Napster with some Tom Petty songs. I remember songs like The Waiting were on there, American Girl. I want to say Woman in Love from Hard Promises were all on there. But this is the album that I listened to over and over and over and over again when I was about, in 8th grade, 14 years old. And what stemmed from this was this album, which I've talked about before, the Traveling Wilburys Volume 1. Of course, Tom Petty was a member of the Traveling Wilburys on both of their albums, but I was listening to Volume 1 the most, so, Tom Petty songs, obviously you heard his voice in Handle with Care, Dirty World, Rattled, Last Night is his first full lead, Margarita, he's got that great line of, she wrote a long letter on a short piece of paper. One of my favorite lines of all time. So again, I talked about this album at length already. This is one of the main reasons I got into Tom Petty, was Traveling Wilburys Volume 1 and his greatest hits. Now, of course, this is the greatest hits that came out in 1993. Tom Petty hated this album because at this point, Tom Petty was already recording his album, Wildflowers. And he was being charged by the record company to put out new songs on his greatest hits, which they ended up putting on 2 tracks of greatest hits. 2 new tracks on the greatest hits, one of which became a greatest hit, Mary Jane's Last Dance. And then they did a cover of Thunderclap Newman's Something in the Air to finish out the album. And Petty just thought it was ridiculous. He said, why do I have to write a new song when I'm trying to focus on another album as a solo project with most of the Heartbreakers present? And part of that rift was with the recording of Wildflowers. Stan Lynch, the drummer, was not invited to be a part of that project, but the company wanted the Heartbreakers to record the tracks. And so Stan There he is there. Stan Lynch came to record those last couple of tracks, and those were the last sessions that they ever did with Stan Lynch. But this has all the hits on it. You know, it goes from American Girl, which was on the very first album, Breakdown, also on the first album, Listen to Her Heart, I Need to Know, Refugee, The Waiting, You Got Lucky, Don't Come Around Here No More. Then they include the solo tracks from Full Moon Fever, I Won't Back Down, Run Down a Dream, Free Fallin', Learning to Fly, which came out, does the following album on the Into the Great Wide Open album. That song also made it on this list. And then the 2 new songs, Mary Jane's Last Dance, Something in the Air, and then a few others that I didn't mention. So I listened to this on repeat. I had it on my iPod and just ate this album up. I listened to this album so many times. Actually, one of the reasons it took me a long time to buy the album Damn the Torpedoes was that this album already had so many songs from Damn the Torpedoes on there, like Listen to Her Heart, I Need to Know, Refugee, Don't Do Me Like That, Even the Losers, Here Comes My Girl, were all on Damn the Torpedoes. I'm like, why would I spend $10 to buy, 5 songs? As a kid, that was my thinking. I didn't want it. Now I have it on CD and vinyl. But this album ate it up like it was nothing. Just all the time. On my iPod, in the car, in my room. 14-year-old Sam. This was a standard. So with that, I was also watching a lot of Tom Petty videos on YouTube because I'd gotten in, my mom and dad showed me how to use YouTube. And one year, either for my birthday or for Christmas, I can't remember, I received this as a gift. This is playback, the music videos, which have a ton of his music videos. And I knew most of the songs from the greatest hits, but then there were other songs, some deeper cuts like Insider and Change of Heart, Jammin' Me, Face in the Crowd, You're So Bad. And fun fact, A Face in the Crowd, the video was directed by Bob Dylan's son, Jesse. And I listened to this DVD all the time. Watch the videos, watch the crazy Don't Come Around Here No More Mad Hatter video, watch the very cool like Mad Max You Got Lucky video. And funny enough, when we had iPods, I downloaded 2 music videos on my iPod, one of which was Jammin' Me, which I always associate with my iPod. Jammin' Me from this album, Let Me Up, I've Had Enough, what a lot of people consider one of his weaker albums. I don't. There are 2 or 3 that I consider weaker than this. And I should also say, I didn't say it, Tom Petty, if I had to pick an artist with an absolutely perfect catalog, and perfect in the sense that there's never an album, I don't think, you don't listen to any Tom Petty album and cringe. Like, some people might listen to, like the Beatles, and they'll listen to like the Yellow Submarine soundtrack and cringe a little bit because of all the, the orchestration, or like some people don't like the White Album. I'm not a fan of the White Album as much as the other Beatles albums. And some people, Bob Dylan, one of my favorites, who I'll definitely do an episode on Bob Dylan. Some of his 80s material, some of his covers albums, some people don't like those albums. I don't have a bad Tom Petty album. There's no such thing. To me, there's no such thing as a Tom Petty song that is bad. There's not. He doesn't have a Revolution 9. He doesn't have a, I don't even know, They Killed Him by Bob Dylan, which is a Chris Christopherson cover. Petty doesn't have it. Even his B-cuts, his B-sides, and his alternates are fantastic. But anyway, I associate this album with my iPod because I have the video for Jammin' Me, which was a song co-written with Bob Dylan when they were on tour, the Heartbreakers with Dylan. And that and Don't Come Around Here No More, I watched them on my iPod all the time. Sometimes I was in school waiting for my mom or dad to come pick me up from school, and I'd be watching the videos on my iPod. So I always associate Tom Petty with that part of my life, with those songs. And I mentioned that Trevor and Wilburys album, I think, kept me sane throughout 8th grade. I was in a new school. Again, I've told this story before. Tons of homework, very rigorous. And listening to that Trevor and Wilburys CD on my boombox, falling asleep even, it calmed me. So that album holds so much significance to me, and Tom Petty played a big part in that. So anyway, the first Tom Petty album that I actually bought, obviously I had the greatest hits. You got the Trevor and Wilburys. I had the DVD playback, I finally got this bad boy, which again, I've done a full video on. I won't go fully into it. It's the first Tom Petty solo album produced by Jeff Lynne, Full Moon Fever. This has Running Down a Dream, Free Fallin', I Won't Back Down. You're So Bad is on here. Love is a Long Road, Running Down a Dream, I said. Feel a Whole Lot Better. Depending on You, the Apartment Song, All Right for Now, A Mind with a Heart of Its Own, and Zombie Zoo. Essentially, Petty with, fellow Wilbury Jeff Lynne. George Harrison makes an appearance on here, as does Roy Orbison faintly in the background, and Del Shannon even provides some sound effects. The singer who sang the song Runaway, which is mentioned in Running Down a Dream. Again, listen to this album like it was going out of style. And again, like I said, I've done a full video on it, but this album launched my Tom Petty collection, my studio albums collection. The first Tom Petty related album that I bought new when it came out was this album, Mudcrutch. Mudcrutch is Tom Petty's band that he formed in Gainesville with his longtime partner, Mike Campbell. Later, Ben Montench, the keyboardist for the Heartbreakers, would join the band. They were also rounded out by Randall Marsh on the drums and Tom Ledden on guitar and mandolin, background vocals. Tom Ledden, of course, is the brother, the younger brother, I believe, to Bernie Ledden of the Eagles. And unfortunately, we lost Tom early this year or late last year. Very, very kind of suddenly. He was just in his early 70s. So this is a great album. It's got a lot of covers, a lot of bluegrass and country covers, but they're done in a rock manner. So if you're afraid of the word bluegrass or country, it's Tom Petty doing that. Okay, it's not, Flatt and Scruggs or Bill Monroe. But they do songs like Shady Grove. They do 6 Days on the Road. They do the Bird song, Lover of the Bayou. They do a traditional June Apple. It's just really, really great. There are lead vocals by Tom Ledden, Tom Petty, and Ben Montench. All provide a vocal. They're the boys. This is 2008, so there's Tom Ledden, Petty, Mike Campbell, Randall Marsh, and Ben Mont. And Randall Marsh actually, I believe, played on a couple of early Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers tracks before Stan Lynch joined the band, because Stan Lynch was not known to be a great studio drummer. At least that's what Jimmy Iovine said, who produced the Damn the Torpedoes album, and many, many other classic albums, including this album. So anyway, Mudcrutch. I remember seeing this. I was fascinated by this image and had to get this album. Ate it up. You got jammy stuff on here like Crystal River. Again, the country, like 6 Days on the Road and House of Stone. Kind of rocker, like kind of boogie woogie, like Bootleg Flyer. Shady Grove is rocking. Mike Campbell plays fantastically. And one of the things that really blew my mind about this album is there's a note in the inner cover that says, drums, wires, old friends, etc. Recorded live, vocals, harmony, everything. Arrangements done on studio floor, made in 10 days, no headphones. Los Angeles in August 07, a lot of love and joy. So I bought this, again, 2008. I was in 8th grade. Didn't look back. From this point on, I was getting all the new Tom Petty. This was an album I listened to a lot in college. This is Hard Promises. This is what you might think of as his record company protest album, where he wanted this album to be a certain price. He didn't want the price to go up because he thought it was unfair for his fans and the consumers. Record company wanted to up his albums by an extra $1 or $2. He said no, and he even took a picture in a record store where records are priced the way that he wanted this record to be priced. This is 1981. It's got the one of the best opening songs of all time, The Waiting, very jangly, very birdsy. You also have A Woman in Love with that fantastic intro with the boom, with the drums, and then Mike Campbell just wailing on the electric guitar. Night Watchman has a great funky drum beat to it. King's Road is very breezy. A Thing About You is a fantastic, just fast-paced rocker. Insider is a beautiful duet with Stevie Nicks, who he would also do Stop Dragging My Heart Around with, I believe, this same year on her album Belladonna. You Can Still Change Your Mind, beautiful, with Stevie Nicks singing the background vocals. I listened to this album going up and down the interstate, up to back home, from home to college, around probably my sophomore, junior year of college. Listened to this album a ton. Another college album that I really started getting into. This was Tom Petty's final solo album. This is Highway Companion. Again, a collaboration with Jeff Lynne, and of course his longtime partner Mike Campbell is on here. Benmont Tench, I think, plays on one track. This is kind of a mix of Wildflowers and Full Moon Fever. You've got more acoustic, adult, contemporary kind of songs like Square One. It could have fit right on Wildflowers. Saving Grace is kind of You Wreck Me style. That actually got some play on classic rock radio. Actually, they still played some of this Tom Petty. The song Down South could have been on Southern Accents as well. Big Weekend has got a great kind of slide guitar by Mike Campbell. Damaged by Love, beautiful harmony vocal, very much like a Roy Orbison tribute almost vocally. It sounds like that. Just a really, really solid album. It's a mix of rock. It's got some Wildflowers acoustic moments to it, some great harmonies, and it's almost like if Jeff Lynne tried to copy Rick Rubin. It's a very sparse Jeff Lynne record. It doesn't have that traditional Jeff Lynne production on it, but it's very, very good. I remember seeing this cover in Barnes & Noble as a kid, because this came out in 2006. Again, funny enough, this was actually put out on American Records, which is Rick Rubin's label. So it has a lot of that feeling to it. And I remember seeing this at Barnes & Noble, kind of creeped out by the album cover. I didn't really fully understand it with the astronaut and the chimp and the rocket. Very Twilight Zone, but it's a fantastic record. Really, really like it a lot. Again, another college album I listen to all the time, Into the Great Wide Open. Listen to this going up and down the road all the time. I was obsessed with the song. The Dark of the Sun, very breezy. Fantastic Jeff Lynne background harmonies. This was the follow-up to Full Moon Fever. It was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers wanted to do a Jeff Lynne record. They wanted to be part of it, have the same success as Full Moon Fever. Not quite as successful, but still very, very close. Big hits on here. Learning to Fly, one of my mom's all-time favorite songs. Into the Great Wide Open. The Dark of the Sun. Making Some Noise is a heavy rocker. Fantastic track. And again, something that I should say, I've talked about it on this video, but Tom Petty was a way for me to kind of buck the system a little bit in high school. When I was a senior in high school, we had senior slideshows. Again, a very, very conservative Christian school that I went to. And we had slideshows, and we had to have our music choices kind of edited by a faculty member. And the faculty member was a guy named Jeremy. Very, very cool guy. I'm still in touch with him. He was like the young teacher at the time. He was a big Dylan fan, big Grateful Dead fan. And I said, I want to have the song Running Down a Dream in my slideshow. And so he said, absolutely. So that was my song. Everybody else had these like very like cutesy little songs, like a Disney song and stuff like that. And then I'm sitting there like, at the big event in my tie. My grandparents were there, my mom and dad, my sisters. And then all of a sudden you hear, I just thought that was like, yeah, that's me being rock and roll as much as I can at, almost 18. So yeah, that was a big Tom Petty memory for me growing up. Again, mention Wildflowers. The reason I mentioned this album is because the song Wildflowers is a huge song for me to play on guitar. It was one of those early finger picking kind of songs. And it was one of the first songs I remember learning how to play and me realizing that, oh, this kind of sounds like the record. Like this sounds kind of similar to the record. So that's pretty cool. So again, I could talk about this album all the time. The box set is the best box set in my collection. If you can get it, get it. There's no filler. Again, I've talked about this on other videos, so check that out. But, you have the original album, you have all the rest, which are 10 other tracks that were recorded during the sessions. Home recordings, you have most of the songs on a disc called Wildflowers Live. You have alternate versions, Finding Wildflowers, which is like some alternate lyrics in some of the songs where he's trying to figure out what lyrics work with what. And it's cool to hear lyrics that ended up in other songs on the album that he put in another song. So this is a fantastic set. Get it if you like Tom Petty, especially if you love the Wildflowers album. But yeah, the song Wildflowers and You Don't Know How It Feels, I would play that on the harmonica. And again, I remember that video too with him doing the harmonica and like the rotating set behind him, where he was rotating in the middle with the like the floppy hat. Crawling Back to You, the song, what is it? Um, Time to Move On. That was huge when Tom Petty passed, which I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, that was a huge song, quoted often by people on Tom Petty tributes. Again, one of the last, well, Tom Petty's last album was called Hypnotic Eye with the Heartbreakers. Anyway, this came out in 2014. Bought this in college. I would have been a sophomore or a junior. I think depending on when it came out, I was either a sophomore or a junior. And I listened to this album all the time. I was blown away because I'd listened to the album before this, which was Mojo, which was a little bit more bluesy. My least favorite Tom Petty album. But this album is fantastic. It's produced by Petty, Mike Campbell, and Ryan Ulyate. Great stuff on here. It's the original Heartbreakers minus Stan Lynch. You have Ron Blair, the bassist, back in the band, who was gone for several years. Came back during the Mojo sessions. Rockin' albums, got a little bit of alternate sounds to it. It's got a little bit of grunge even. Great stuff on here like Fault Lines, you know, American Dream, Plan B. Red River is beautiful. Let's see, Shadow People is kind of trippy. Forgotten Man is rockin'. You Get Me High is very trippy. Just a fantastic, you know, return to form for Petty and the boys. It was their first true rockin' album, I think, since really probably since Into the Great Wide Open, I would say. So Hypnotic Eye, this was big for me in college. Listened to it nonstop. My all-time favorite Tom Petty song is off of this album. It's the song Southern Accents. It's very relatable to me, being from Virginia. Lines like, you know, there's a Southern accent where I come from. The youngins call it country. The Yankees call it dumb. Just beautiful songwriting. It's, you know, originally supposed to be a concept album. This album about the South, it ended up kind of being a mixed bag. But Dogs on the Run, The Best of Everything has a beautiful background vocal by Richard Manuel, produced, I believe that song was produced by Jimmy Iovine, Petty, and Robbie Robertson, who just passed away from the band. So if you want to know my favorite Petty song, it's Southern Accents. Some box sets that I have. The live anthology, I listen to this a lot. It was live music up until I guess 2009. 4 discs, fantastic. This was the first posthumous box set that came out after Petty died, An American Treasure, put out by his estate. It was set up with, you know, a lot of tracks that were underappreciated, deep cuts, but then also a lot of alternate versions, a lot of live versions. So there's a lot of unreleased stuff on here. Really, really great stuff. Right up until the last tour that he did with his band Mudcrutch, which I will get to in just a moment as well. This is the most recent box set. This was live at the Fillmore from 1997. 4 discs of nonstop rock and roll. Get it. It's got people like John Lee Hooker on it, Roger McGuinn. Let's see, who else is on there? And just all sorts of covers, like Friend of the Devil, you know, Rip It Up, Diddy Wah Diddy, Call Me the Breeze, Ain't No Sunshine, You Are My Sunshine, It's All Over Now by the Rolling Stones. Fantastic. And this was the last album that Tom Petty played on, or that he put out. He had another album that he played on, which is somewhere over here. I'll find it. Yeah, here we go. So this is the last album he put out. This is Mudcrutch II. It was the second album by Mudcrutch. Came out 2016. So it came out 8 years after the first Mudcrutch album. Very much more organized in the studio. They added the addition of Herb Peterson that would play with Chris Hillman quite a bit in the Desert Rose Band, who provided a lot of background vocals. But it's the same lineup of Mudcrutch as the first album. But this time you have lead vocals from all of the guys. So you have Petty all over this. You have Randall Marsh, the drummer, singing the song Beautiful World, which he wrote. You have Welcome to Hell, sung by Ben Mott. You have Victim of Circumstance, a bluesy rocker by Mike Campbell, which would, I think, kind of give him a push to go and do his own band after the Heartbreakers obviously broke up when Petty died. So yeah, Mudcrutch II, beautiful, beautiful album. And then it ends with the beautiful Hungry No More, which ends that American Treasure box set. And this was the last album that Petty had anything to do with in terms of recording. He produced this. This is Chris Hillman of the Byrds. It's called Biding My Time, and he does a version of Wildflowers on here. And I got to see Chris Hillman with Marty Stewart and Roger McGuinn, and he sang this song, and that was really, really a cool thing to see. And Petty plays some guitar and harmonica on here. So he was doing stuff right up to the end. And I remember when Tom Petty passed, I was working in a gift shop up at a mountain lodge. And I remember getting notifications on my phone saying Petty was deceased, and then he was not, and he was on life support. And then when he finally passed away, I remember just sitting in silence. It was October, just before his birthday. I was looking out the window at the leaves, and I was like, how on earth can Tom Petty be dead? He's 67 years old. He just finished his 40th anniversary tour with the Heartbreakers a couple weeks before at the Hollywood Bowl. And it was just devastating. And I still miss Tom Petty. I will forever miss Tom Petty. He is such an inspiration to me. He was such a great songwriter, got it done in a short amount of time. And I love the man to death. I hate that I never got to see him. I'm very fortunate I'll get to see Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs, his side project, now his full-time project, in a couple of months with my mom, who's very excited because she never got to see Petty either. And we're going to have a great time with that. So there'll be a review this fall when I go to see Mike Campbell. But anyway, this video is about Tom Petty. Sorry it was so long, but I love Tom Petty. Love him, love him, love him. Thanks to my mom and dad for getting me into him. And we'll never have another one. So I hope y'all enjoyed the second episode. Please comment and let me know what you think. Again, sorry it was so long, but I could go on about Tom Petty. In the meantime, y'all be good, take care, and we'll talk to you in the next one. Bye now.